The Galactic Naval Academy floated among the stars like a metal city. Station Pinnacle 7 was its name, and it was the most famous training center in all the known galaxy. For 300 years, the best soldiers and officers from every corner of space had come here to learn. They came from worlds of ice and worlds of fire. They came with scales and feathers and skin made of living crystal. They were strong. They were fast. They were special. And then there were the humans. Humans had joined the Galactic Confederacy only 80 years ago. In that time, they had earned a reputation. Not a good one. Compared to other species, humans were small. They were weak. They broke easily and healed slowly. They could not see in the dark like the Volanti. They could not lift 10 times their body weight like the Gorath. They could not read minds or calculate complex math in their heads like the Meridians. Humans were, as one famous alien general had said, the galaxy's participation trophy. Among all the humans at the Academy, one stood out as the worst of them all. Her name was Una. She was 23 years old and stood barely 160 centimeters tall. Her arms were thin. Her shoulders were narrow. When she wore the standard combat armor, it hung on her body like clothes borrowed from an older sibling. She looked like she might fall over in a strong wind. Her test scores were the lowest in her entire class. In combat simulations, she failed 93% of the time. The instructors had stopped calling on her during tactical lessons because her nervous, stuttering answers made everyone uncomfortable. Even the patient Meridian professors, who were known for their kindness, had given up on her. The other cadets called her names. Ghost, because she was so easy to forget. Breakable, because she looked like she might shatter. Mistake, because surely someone at the admission office had made an error. Even the other human cadets avoided her. They had enough problems being taken seriously. Being seen with Una made things worse. On this particular morning, Una stood in the physical assessment chamber with 40 other cadets. Instructor Korvax, a massive Gorath with 4 arms and skin like gray stone, walked between them. The Gorath were one of the strongest species in the galaxy. A single Gorath warrior could fight 100 human soldiers and win. Without getting tired, Korvax stopped in front of Una. He looked down at her with all 3 of his eyes. The cleaning drone scored higher than you on reflexes, he said. His voice was loud enough to echo off the walls. The machine that mops the floors. It has better reaction time than you. The other cadets laughed. The Lanthi cadets made sounds like breaking glass. Gorath cadets rumbled like earthquakes. Even the Meridians, who usually stayed quiet, allowed themselves small smiles. Una kept her eyes on the floor. Her hands were clasped behind her back. She had heard it all before. Every insult, every joke, every cruel comment. 80 months of this, she said nothing. She never said anything. After the assessment, Una walked alone through the station's long corridors. She passed groups of cadets who stopped talking when they saw her. She passed instructors who looked through her like she was not there. She passed windows that showed the endless black of space, filled with stars that seemed very far away. She ate her meals in the far corner of the mess hall, at a table near the recycling units where no one else wanted to sit. The food was standard nutrition paste. It tasted like nothing. She ate it anyway. Most days she ate alone, but not today. A tray landed on the table across from her. Una looked up and saw another human face. His name was Dowan. He was 25, a little taller than her, with tired eyes and hands that were always stained with engine grease. He was an engineering student, one of the few humans who had found a place at the academy. The alien species did not like doing repair work. It was boring. It was beneath them. So they let humans do it. Dowan was not popular, but he was not hated either. He was just invisible. Like Yuna, but less so. You look terrible, he said, sitting down. Thank you. I heard about Korvax. The cleaning drone thing. Everyone heard. Dowan poked at his food. Why do you stay, Yuna? You could request a transfer. Go to the administrative track. Work in an office somewhere. No fighting. No insults. No one would blame you. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. She stirred her nutrition paste without eating it. I made a promise, she said finally. A promise? To who? Someone who is not here anymore. Dohan waited for more, but Yuna did not explain. She never did. What Dowan did not know, what no one at the academy knew, was that Yuna carried something inside her. Something old. Something that did not belong in this age of starships and energy weapons. Her grandmother had given it to her. The old woman had lived in a small village in Gangwon province, in the mountains of Korea, back on Earth. On her deathbed, she had taken Yuna's hand and held it tight. Something had passed between them. Not words, not instructions, just warmth, just light, just a feeling of something vast and patient moving from one body to another. You will know when it is time, her grandmother had whispered. The fire sleeps, but it remembers. It always remembers. Yuna had been 17 then. She had not understood. 6 years later, she still did not understand. The warmth was there, deep in her chest, but it did nothing. It gave her no strength. It gave her no speed. It just sat there, quiet, like a candle flame in a dark room. Sometimes she wondered if she had imagined it. Sometimes she wondered if her grandmother had simply been a confused old woman telling fairy tales. But then, late at night, when the station was quiet and the stars wheeled slowly past her small window, Yuna would place her hand on her chest and feel it. That warmth, that patience, that sense of something waiting. She did not know what it was waiting for. She did not know if it would ever wake, but she kept her promise anyway. She stayed at the academy. She endured the insults. She failed the tests. She let them laugh, because her grandmother had asked her to be strong. Not strong like the Gorth. Not strong like the aliens who measured strength in muscles and weapons. Strong in a different way. Strong enough to wait. Strong enough to endure. Strong enough to believe that someday, somehow, things would be different. Yuna finished her food and stood up. Same time tomorrow? Dohan asked. Same time tomorrow. She agreed. She walked back to her quarters alone. The corridors were empty. The lights were dim. Her footsteps made no sound. Somewhere deep inside her, the fire stirred in its sleep. Not yet, it seemed to say. But soon, Yuna did not hear it. She just kept walking, small and quiet and invisible, through a galaxy that had already decided she was nothing. They were wrong. They just did not know it yet. The announcement came on a cold morning in the station's artificial winter cycle. All cadets were to report to the main assembly hall. The annual combat trials were beginning. Yuna stood in the back of the crowd with 2,000 other cadets. The hall was vast, with ceilings so high they disappeared into shadow. Giant screens showed the faces of admirals and commanders from across the Confederacy. This was the biggest event of the Academy year. The combat trials were simple. Cadets fought each other in single combat. Winners moved forward. Losers went home with their shame. The fights were watched by scouts from every major military force in the galaxy. A good performance could change a career. A great performance could make someone a legend. For Yuna, the combat trials meant only one thing. Pain. She had survived 3 previous trials by a simple strategy. Lose fast. The quicker she was knocked out of the competition, the less time she spent in the arena. The less time in the arena, the less humiliation. She had become good at falling down. She had become an expert at giving up. But this year, when the randomized brackets appeared on the screens, her stomach turned to ice. Her first opponent was Tarek. Whispers spread through the crowd like fire. Heads turned to look at her. Even aliens who had never noticed her before were staring now. Ta or Ek was a Gorath. But not just any Gorath. He was the son of a powerful political family, and he had been expelled from 2 other academies for violence. Real violence. The kind that put other cadets in medical tanks for months. The kind that left scars that even advanced medicine could not fully heal. The academy had accepted him anyway. His family had paid for a new training wing. That was how things worked in the Confederacy. Tarek had made his intentions clear to everyone. He hated humans. He thought they were vermin. And he had specifically requested to fight one. The system had given him Yuna. Within an hour, the entire station knew. Within 2 hours, cadets were making bets. Not on who would win. Everyone knew who would win. The bets were on how long Yuna would last, how many bones Tarek would break, whether she would survive at all. "I'm going to break every bone in her body," Tarek announced in the mess hall, speaking loudly so everyone could hear. "Slowly. The medical bay can regrow them. I'll just break them again." His Garth friends laughed. Some of the other aliens laughed too. A few looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. Yuna heard about it later from Dawan. She sat in her quarters, staring at the wall. "You could forfeit," Dawan said. He was pacing back and forth, his hands shaking. "Just don't show up. Take the mark on your record. It's better than dying. If I forfeit, they'll say humans are cowards. Who cares what they say?" "I care." Yuna's voice was quiet but firm. "They already say we're weak. They already say we're useless. I won't give them coward too. Yuna, he's going to kill you. The rules say no lethal force, but rules don't apply to people like him. His family will make any investigation disappear. You know this." She knew. Everyone knew. That was why no one was trying to stop it. The night before the trial, Yuna could not sleep. She left her quarters and walked to the observation deck on the upper levels of the station. It was a quiet place. Hardly anyone came here during the night cycle. Just empty chairs and wide windows that looked out at the stars. She sat there for hours, watching the slow rotation of the galaxy outside. Her hands would not stop shaking. She was going to die tomorrow. She was sure of it. Tarek was 3 times her size. He had 4 arms, each one stronger than her whole body. He had trained in combat since he could walk. She had trained in nothing but failure. She should be terrified. She was terrified. But underneath the fear, there was something else. That warmth again. That patience. It was stronger tonight. Closer to the surface. Footsteps behind her. Yuna turned. Dowan stood in the doorway. His face was pale. "I've been looking everywhere for you," he said. "I needed to think." He sat down next to her. For a while, they said nothing. They just watched the stars together. "You could run," Dowan said finally. "There are transport ships leaving every hour. You could be on one of them. Start over somewhere else. No one would find you. I would find me. I would know I ran. Yuna, my grandmother used to tell me stories." The words came out before Yuna could stop them. She had never talked about this with anyone. About the women in our family. She said we carried something. A gift from the mountains. From before humans had words for such things. Dawan looked at her with concern. "She said it would wake when I needed it most," Yuna continued. "I always thought she was just a confused old woman, telling fairy tales to make me feel special. Telling fairy tales to make me feel special. But lately, I've been feeling something. This warmth inside me. Like a fire that's been sleeping for a very long time. Yuna, I don't. I know how it sounds. Crazy. Desperate. Like someone who's about to die and is grabbing at anything. She laughed softly. It was not a happy sound. But something is different tonight. I should be terrified. I am terrified. But I'm also not afraid. Does that make sense? I feel like something is finally paying attention. She stood up and walked to the viewport. Through the thick, transparent material, the stars blazed cold and distant. She placed her hand against the surface, and the material began to glow. It was faint. Just a shimmer of golden light spreading from her palm like ripples in water. The viewport was made of reinforced alloy, strong enough to stop micrometeorites and weapons fire. It was not supposed to glow. It was not supposed to react to anything. Yuna stared at her hand. Dohwan stared at her hand. The glow faded after a few seconds. The viewport was unchanged. But something had happened. Something real. What was that? Dohwan whispered. Why Yuna pulled her hand back slowly. Her fingers were tingling. The warmth in her chest was stronger now. Not sleeping. Not waiting. Awake. I don't know, she said. And it was true. She did not know what she was. She did not know what she could do. She did not know if any of this would help her survive tomorrow. But for the first time in 6 years, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. She turned to face Dohwan. Her eyes were different now. He could see it. Something had shifted behind them. Something old. Something patient. Something that had been waiting a very, very long time. I'm going to fight tomorrow, Yuna said. I'm going to lose. Probably. Almost certainly. But I'm going to fight. And whatever happens, I'm going to find out what this thing inside me is. And if Tarek kills you? Yuna smiled. It was a strange smile. Sad and scared and brave all at once. Then at least I'll die knowing I didn't run. That has to count for something. She walked past him, toward the door. Get some sleep, Dohwan. Tomorrow is going to be interesting. She left him there, alone with the stars and his fear and the memory of golden light spreading across impossible materials, somewhere in the station. Tarek was sleeping peacefully, dreaming of violence. He had no idea what was coming. Neither did Yuna. But the fire inside her knew. The fire that had slept for generations, passed down through blood and touch and love. The fire that remembered things that humanity had forgotten. It was finally time to wake up. The combat trials arena was the largest structure on station, Pinnacle 7. It had been built to hold any fight between any species. The walls were made of neutronium alloy, the hardest material known to science. The floors had graviton dampeners that could absorb impacts from creatures weighing thousands of kilograms. Force fields ringed the edges, capable of containing explosions that would destroy small ships. This arena had survived everything. Garth berserkers in full rage. Velanthi crystal storms that shattered ordinary metal like glass. One time, a Meridian cadet had accidentally created a small black hole with his mind. The arena had held. It was supposed to be unbreakable. 30,000 beings filled the observation galleries that surrounded the fighting floor. They sat in tiered seats that rose up toward the ceiling, each level designed for different species. Gorath needed reinforced benches. Palanthi needed cooling systems. Meridians needed special shields to block the emotional noise of the crowd. Today, the arena was full. More than full. Beings were standing in the aisles. They were crowding the doorways. They were watching on screens throughout the station. Everyone wanted to see the fight between the Gorath and the tiny human in the premium seats. Admirals and commanders from a dozen systems watched with professional interest. Scout teams took notes. Political observers whispered to each other. This fight would be talked about for years. A Gorth noble's son against the weakest cadet in the academy. It was going to be a slaughter. Betting pools had closed an hour ago. Yuna's defeat in under 30 seconds was the heavy favorite. The only question was how much damage Tarek would do. Some bets were specific. Broken arms, shattered ribs, permanent disability. No one had bet on Yuna winning. Not one single being in the entire galaxy. The arena's massive doors opened on opposite sides. From the east entrance, Tarek walked out. He was nearly 3 meters tall, covered in gray scales that were thicker than armor plating. His forearms flexed as he moved, each one ending in hands large enough to crush a human skull. He wore spiked gauntlets that were technically legal. Barely. His 3 eyes scanned the crowd, soaking up their attention. He smiled. It was not a nice smile. From the west entrance, Yuna appeared. She was so small compared to the arena that some beings in the upper levels had trouble seeing her. Her combat gear hung loose on her thin frame. She had no weapons. Weapons required certifications she had never earned. She had only her small fists and her thin arms, and whatever was sleeping inside her. The crowd made sounds. Laughter from some sections. Pity from others. A few races, the ones who had never seen a human before, wondered if this was some kind of joke. Yuna walked to the center of the arena. Her footsteps made no sound against the massive floor. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Her hands were shaking, but she kept walking. Tarek was already there, waiting. "I'm going to enjoy this," he said. His voice was like rocks grinding together. The arena's microphones picked it up and broadcast it to the crowd. "I'm going to break you into so many pieces, they'll need a bucket to collect them." Yuna said nothing. She was looking at him, but her eyes seemed distant, like she was listening to something else. Something only she could hear. The warmth in her chest was burning now. Not painful, just present, just awake. "What's wrong?" Tarek laughed. "Too scared to talk." "Don't worry. You won't have to talk much longer. You won't have a jaw." The referee, a meridian in formal robes, floated to the center of the arena. His voice projected directly into everyone's minds, bypassing the need for speakers. Combat Trial 472. Cadet Tarek of House Korvax versus Cadet Yuna of Earth. Standard rules apply. No lethal force. Fight ends when one combatant surrenders, is incapacitated, or leaves the arena boundaries. The Meridian looked at both fighters. His expression was neutral, but those who knew the species could sense his discomfort. He did not like this match. He could feel Tarek's bloodlust like heat from a furnace. "Take your positions." Tarek crouched into a fighting stance, all 4 arms raised. His leg muscles tensed, ready to launch him forward. He was already calculating the angle of his first strike. Downward, both upper arms together. Enough force to flatten steel. Yuna stood still. She did not raise her hands. She did not take a stance. She just stood there, small and fragile, looking at the monster in front of her. The crowd went quiet. 30,000 beings holding their breath. "Begin." Tarek moved. For something so large, he was incredibly fast. 2 steps and he crossed 30 meters. The floor shook with each footfall like small earthquakes. His upper arms came down in a hammer blow that would have crushed a ground vehicle. Yuna did not move. The blow never landed. Tarek's fists stopped a centimeter from Yuna's head. They just stopped, like they had hit an invisible wall. His arms were still pushing, muscles straining, but nothing happened. It was like trying to punch a mountain. "What?" Tarek's voice was confused, angry. "What is this?" Yuna looked up at him. Her eyes had changed. They were not brown anymore. They blazed with light, gold and white and something deeper, something that hurt to look at directly. like staring at a star. The crowd gasped. A sound from 30,000 throats at once. I tried to lose quietly, Una said. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the entire arena without any amplification. It reached every ear, every mind. I tried to be invisible. I stayed in the back. I failed my tests. I let you all laugh at me. Tarek tried to pull his arms back. He could not. Something was holding them in place. I didn't want this, Una continued. Her voice was sad, tired. I just wanted to keep my promise and go home. I didn't ask for attention. I didn't ask for a fight. The light in her eyes grew brighter. Her skin was beginning to glow, faint lines of gold spreading along her veins like rivers of fire. But you wouldn't let me. You wanted a show. You wanted blood. You wanted to prove that humans are weak, that we're nothing. She raised her right hand. It was glowing now, blazing with light that left after images in everyone's vision. So let me show you something. She brought her palm down against the arena floor. The sound was not loud. It was almost gentle, like a hand touching a table. But the arena floor did not crack. It parted. A line of pure light erupted from Una's palm. It shot across the floor like lightning, but straight. So straight it hurt to look at. The neutronium alloy, the hardest material known to science, the metal that had stopped black holes, split apart like wet paper. The line did not stop at the floor. It continued into the wall, through the wall, through the reinforced supports behind it, through the emergency barriers, through everything. In less than a second, the entire training deck split in two. The arena, the observation galleries, the corridors beyond. 800 meters of Station Pinnacle 7, cut clean through by a single human hand. Emergency alarms screamed to life. The entire station shook. Force fields flickered on desperately, trying to contain the atmosphere that was trying to escape into space. Gravity fluctuated wildly. Beings screamed and ran for emergency positions. Tarek was on his back, thrown clear by the shockwave. He lay there, all forearms spread, staring at the ceiling with three eyes full of terror. Una stood at the center of it all. The light was fading from her eyes, from her skin, but it was not gone. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. She looked at her hand, the hand that had just broken the unbreakable dot around her. 30,000 beings stared in absolute silence. No one was laughing now. No one would ever laugh at her again. The station was in chaos. Emergency lights flashed red in every corridor. Sirens wailed in frequencies designed to alert dozens of different species. Beings ran in every direction, some toward evacuation points, others toward duty stations. The voice of the station's artificial intelligence repeated instructions in 15 languages. Structural breach detected in Sector 7. All personnel evacuate to safe zones. This is not a drill. Through the massive gash that now split the training deck, stars were visible, cold and distant and uncaring. The emergency force fields held the atmosphere inside, but just barely. Engineers were already scrambling to reinforce them. In the arena, the 30,000 spectators were being evacuated. Most of them were still in shock. They moved slowly, their eyes fixed on the small human figure still standing at the center of the destruction. Una had not moved. She was looking at her hand, turning it over, examining her palm like she had never seen it before. The glow was fading, but her veins still pulsed with faint golden light. She could feel the warmth inside her, stronger than ever. Not sleeping anymore, not waiting. Awake and aware and watching through her eyes. What am I? She whispered. Tarek was still on the ground nearby. The massive Gorath had not tried to stand. He lay on his back, all forearms spread, staring at the human who had just done the impossible. His three eyes were wide with something he had never felt before, Fear. He was afraid of her. Around the arena, emergency response teams were arriving. Medical personnel, security forces, engineers with portable equipment. They spread out through the damaged section, assessing the destruction, helping injured beings, trying to understand what had happened. One figure pushed through the chaos toward Yun. She was human. Old, with gray hair cut short and a face marked by decades of service. She wore the uniform of an admiral, one of the highest ranks in the Confederacy Navy. There were only 4 human admirals in all of known space. Her name was Quan, and she had seen many strange things in her long career, but nothing like this. Admiral Quan reached Yuna and stopped a few meters away. Her eyes moved over the destruction, the split floor, the severed walls, the clean, impossible line that cut through materials designed to survive anything. "Yuna," she said. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking slightly. "Your grandmother was Nam Yunji." Yuna looked up sharply. "You knew her?" "I knew her. I was there when she walked into a Goroth invasion force during the Siege of Titan. 10,000 soldiers with weapons and tanks and aircraft. She walked in alone, unarmed. What happened?" "She asked them to leave." Admiral Kwan's voice was barely above a whisper. "Politely. She said please. And they left. Every single one of them. They turned around and went back to their ships and flew away. We never found out why. They wouldn't talk about it. Some of them retired from military service that same day. Some of them never spoke again." Yuna stared at the admiral. "She never told me that." "She wouldn't have. The women who carry this gift, they don't talk about it. They pass it down in silence. Mother to daughter, grandmother to granddaughter. Sometimes it skips generations. Sometimes it skips centuries." We thought the line had ended with Yunji. The station shook. Another emergency alert sounded. Somewhere in the distance, metal groaned under stress. "What is it?" Yuna asked. "What's inside me?" Admiral Kwan looked at her with an expression that mixed wonder and sadness and something like grief. "We don't know." "Not really. We have theories, legends, stories passed down through human history, changed and corrupted over time. Dragons, angels, gods. Every culture has tales of beings with power beyond understanding. Maybe they were just stories. Or maybe," she gestured at the destruction around them, "maybe they were memories of what humans used to be, what some of us still are. I'm not a god. I'm just Yuna. I can't even pass basic combat training." Combat training measures physical strength, reflex speed, muscle mass. The admiral stepped closer. "What you have is something else. Something older. Something that doesn't care about muscles or training or any of the things we use to measure worth." "Then, what does it care about?" Before the admiral could answer, security teams finally reached them. A squad of mixed species, weapons drawn, surrounding the 2 humans with nervous efficiency. Their leader, a Volanthi with crystalline skin that flickered with anxious light, spoke in a rapid voice. "Admiral Kwan, we need to secure the area. The human cadet must come with us for investigation." "Investigation?" Yuna felt the warmth in her chest stir. "Just slightly. A warning." "What investigation?" "You just caused more damage to this station than any attack in its 300-year history. You destroyed classified military equipment. You injured 17 beings with debris. You created a structural breach that could have killed thousands." The Volanthi's voice was hard. "You will be detained until we understand what happened." "She will not be detained." Everyone turned. Admiral Kwan had straightened her spine. She was shorter than most of the security team, an old human woman surrounded by armored aliens. But something in her voice made them hesitate. "With respect, Admiral, This is a security matter. You have no authority. I have exactly the authority I need. Quan pulled out a small device and projected a hologram. Documents, codes, authorization seals that made the Valante's crystal skin go pale. This cadet is now under the protection of Special Operations. Division 7. All investigation rights are transferred to my command. If you have questions, you can file them through proper channels. In about 6 months, the security team exchanged glances. They didn't like it, but they recognized the seals. They knew what Division 7 meant. Even most admirals didn't know what Division 7 did. Understood, Admiral. The Volante stepped back. The cadet is your responsibility. She always was. Quan took Yuna's arm gently. You might not have known it, but I've been watching you since you entered the academy. Waiting. Hoping. Hoping for what? For you to wake up? They walked together through the ruined arena, past the stunned spectators still being evacuated, past the emergency teams trying to hold the station together. Yuna saw Dowan in the crowd. He was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. She wanted to go to him, to explain, but the Admiral kept moving. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. Somewhere I can explain things. Somewhere we can figure out what to do next. Do next? Admiral Quan stopped and turned to face her. Around them, the station groaned and shook. Alerts continued to wail. But in this moment, there was just the two of them. Two humans in a galaxy that had always underestimated their kind. Yuna, what you did today will change everything. Every species in the Confederacy saw what happened. Right now, commanders and politicians and intelligence agencies across the galaxy are reviewing the footage. They're running calculations. They're rewriting their assessment of humanity. Because of one girl who broke a floor? Because of one girl who broke the unbreakable. Quan smiled. It was a tired smile, but real. And because they're going to realize something that we've been hiding for a very long time. What's that? You're not alone. There are others like you, scattered across human space, hidden, waiting. And if one of you can do this, she gestured at the destruction around them. What could all of you do together? Yuna felt the warmth in her chest pulse in response. Like a heartbeat. Like an answer. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know what she had become. She didn't know if she was a hero or a monster or something else entirely. But for the first time in her life, she knew she wasn't nothing. She was just getting started. 3 days passed. The repairs to Station Pinnacle 7 continued around the clock. Engineers from 6 different species worked in shifts, sealing the breach, rebuilding the walls, replacing the destroyed equipment. The cost was enormous. The damage was unprecedented. Everyone agreed it would take months to fully restore the station, and everyone agreed that nothing would ever be the same. The footage of the fight had spread across the galaxy within hours. Every news network carried it. Every military academy studied it. Every government discussed it in closed sessions. The small human girl who split a training deck with her bare hand was the most famous being in known space. Yuna saw none of this. She had been confined to special quarters deep in a secure section of the station. The room was comfortable but small. A bed, a desk, a window that showed only the metal walls of an interior corridor. Guards stood outside her door at all times. Not to keep her prisoner, Admiral Quan explained. To keep others out. You have no idea how many people want to talk to you, the Admiral had said. Intelligence agencies, military commanders, scientists, politicians, religious leaders who think you might be some kind of prophet. We're blocking thousands of requests every day. Yuna sat on her bed, staring at her hands. They looked normal now. No glow, no light. Just ordinary human hands, small and thin and unremarkable. But she could still feel it. The warmth. The fire. It was quieter now, resting after its awakening, but it was there, present, aware, waiting for her to understand it. Dawan visited. Every day he came in the morning with food from the mess hall. Real food, not the nutrition paste that Yuna usually ate. He said the kitchen staff had started preparing special meals for her. They wanted to make sure the human who broke the station was well fed. They're scared of you, Dawan said, sitting in the chair by her desk. Everyone is, I know. The Volanthi delegation sent a formal request for an audience. They want to negotiate some kind of treaty. Just with you. Not with human governments. With you personally. I'm not a government. I'm a failed cadet. You were a failed cadet. Now you're... He struggled for words. I don't know what you are now. Neither do one. They sat in silence for a while. Outside, the sounds of repair work echoed through the station. Hammering, welding, the hum of machinery putting things back together. The Meridians want to scan your brain, Dawan said finally. They think they can understand how you did it. What you are. And if they figure it out? I don't know. Maybe they can help you control it. Maybe they can... He stopped. Maybe they can copy it? Make more people like me? Dawan didn't answer. That was answer enough that the Admiral came to see her that afternoon. She brought files. Real paper files, the kind that couldn't be hacked or intercepted electronically. Old-fashioned security for old-fashioned secrets. These are records of others like you, Quan said, spreading the files on the desk. Going back centuries. Thousands of years, in some cases. Humans who did impossible things. Who changed the course of battles, stopped disasters, moved mountains with their will. Yuna looked at the files. Names and dates and descriptions. A woman in ancient Korea who stopped a river from flooding her village. A man in medieval Europe who walked through fire without burning. A child in colonial America who called down lightning to save her family from attack. Most of these are considered legends, the Admiral continued. Myths, fairy tales. But we've been collecting evidence, tracking bloodlines, searching for patterns. How long has this been going on? Since the first ships left Earth, since the first contact with alien species. Some of us realized that humanity might have hidden strengths, things we had forgotten, things that had been sleeping, like me, like you, like your grandmother, like dozens of others we found scattered across human space. Some know what they are, some don't. Some have awakened. Most haven't. What triggers the awakening? We don't know. Trauma sometimes. Desperation. A moment of extreme need. The Admiral paused. Your grandmother awakened when she was 19. Her village was being attacked. Her family was about to die. She did what she had to do. And after that, she spent 50 years learning to control it, to live with it, to hide it from a galaxy that would have dissected her if they knew. Yuna thought about her grandmother, the quiet old woman who told stories about mountains and fire, who held her hand on her deathbed and passed something along. A gift, a burden, a responsibility. What happens now? Yuna asked. That depends on you. You can hide. Go to some quiet world. Live a normal life and pretend this never happened. We can make it happen. New identity. New history. You be safe. Or you can help us. Find others like you. Wake them up. Train them. Build something that humanity has never had before. A weapon? A family. The Admiral's voice was firm. Not a weapon. We have plenty of weapons. What we need is something else. People who understand what they are. Who can protect humanity not by fighting, but by existing. By showing the galaxy that we're not as weak as they think. Before Yuna could respond, there was a knock at the door. One of the guards spoke through the intercom. "Admiral, someone is here to see the cadet." "Who?" "The Goroth. Tark." Una felt her chest tighten. The warmth inside her stirred slightly. Not aggressive, just alert. The Admiral looked at her. "Do you want to see him?" Una thought about it. The massive alien who had promised to break every bone in her body. Who had wanted to prove that humans were nothing. Yes. Tarek barely fit through the door. His forearms hung at his sides. He was not wearing his combat gear anymore. Just simple clothes that seemed strange on his warrior frame. He looked smaller somehow. Not physically. Smaller inside. "I came to apologize," he said. Una said nothing. She waited. "All my life, I was taught that strength was everything." His voice was different now. Quieter. Uncertain. "My family. My culture. Everything. The strong survive. The weak die. That's how the universe works. That's what I believed. And now? Now I don't know what I believe." He shook his head slowly, a gesture he had learned from humans. "You were weak. You were supposed to be weak. Everything about you is weak. And then I don't know what I am," Una said honestly. "Neither do I, but I know what you're not." Tarek met her eyes. All three of his, looking into both of hers. "You're not the joke we thought you were. None of your kind are they? I don't think we know yet. I don't think we've ever really tried to find out." Tarek nodded. He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not because you're powerful now. Not because I'm afraid of you. Because I was wrong. I've been wrong my whole life. About a lot of things." He left without waiting for a response. Una stood by the window after he was gone. She placed her hand on the cold metal wall. It did not glow. The power was quiet, patient, waiting to be understood. But she could feel it. She could feel herself. Out among the stars, the galaxy had spent centuries dismissing humanity. They had been tolerated, overlooked, laughed at. The participation trophy of the Confederacy. Una smiled slightly. Her grandmother had asked her to be strong, to wait, to endure, to believe that someday things would be different. That day had come, not just for her, for all of humanity. Billions of humans on Earth and across the colonies who had been taught to think of themselves as ordinary, as average, as less than Dodd. They were not less than Dodd. They had just forgotten what they were. Una made her decision. "Admiral," she said without turning from the window, "tell me more about these others. These people like me. I want to find them. I want to help them wake up. And then we remember together." She finally turned, and her eyes held something new. Determination, purpose, fire. It's time for humanity to remember what it forgot. And it's time for the galaxy to learn what we can really do. The Admiral smiled. Outside, the stars wheeled slowly past. The story was just beginning.